Mhm. Okay. Hello, everyone. Afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning. Good evening. How you doing? We're live. We're back. So I'm Natalie Dumond. I am the founder of the Worthy Project, which is a coaching program that helps and aims to help individuals stand in the highest version of themselves, giving them more clarity, more confidence, and more courage to go after the life that they really want. And basically, I'm a coach or a leadership coach and a facilitator. And I've decided to do these live series selfishly, and also to help and share with other people different ways that individuals have grown themselves or their businesses, so we can learn from them. So it's just an interview series that's on LinkedIn and Facebook that we get to connect with professional women who said yes to themselves and their big dreams, and they took a risk and a bet on themselves. And we just are going to find out what drove them to do that, what inspired them, and hopefully they can inspire you to do the same. So today, I'm really excited because I have an international guest all the way from New Zealand. So I'm excited. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to get to know our guest for a long time. A long time, probably the last 5 months since I kind of found out who she was. So I'm so excited to be joined by Bryony McKenzie today. She is the founder of Untapped, which is a transformational 8-week online group coaching experience aimed at young professionals who are ready to create and plan their dream life and act on it. So she is a coach, a facilitator, and an entrepreneur, and she's coming all the way from New Zealand. And she's going to share her personal insights on development and self-discovery. So I love talking to people like this because I love this area as well. Prior to this, she spent 3 years as a top-tier corporate lawyer. So I want to understand more about that, and then why she decided to leave, like what made her move on, and really get a sense. She threw herself into personal development and self-discovery and what she learned from that whole experience, because I think she learned from some of the best in the world. Now she spends her time and her efforts and her gifts helping young professionals discover and create and finally step into their unique path. She's also a qualified NLP master coach. So I want to know more about that. So everybody, please welcome Bryony.
Hello. Thank you so much for that beautiful intro. Very kind.
It's all true. It's
always funny hearing that kind of played back to you, like, oh yeah, it's me. It's what I do. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think everybody should get an intro done of their, what they've achieved so far. I think it would help boost some confidence for a lot of people. So you're coming all the way from New Zealand. That's exciting. I've never interviewed somebody on here yet from New Zealand.
Yes. Hopefully my accent's okay. I was on the phone to someone in Australia the other day and I kept saying the same thing. And he was like, I'm really not getting what you're saying here. And I was like, oh my gosh. So our accent can be quite strong sometimes. So yeah, I'm tuning in from New Zealand. I live in a beautiful place called Wanaka, which is right amongst the mountains and the lakes here in New Zealand. So yeah, feel very, very privileged.
That's amazing. Did you grow up there or you moved there?
So we moved here recently. So we have my partner and I have the classic, some of the classic COVID stories of we were 2 days from flying to LA for a training. And then we actually had kind of paid to live in Bali for do the classic Bali entrepreneur thing, but we had paid for about 8 months of accommodation co-working. So our New Zealand, we went into lockdown 3 days before we flew. So anyway, so we just reassessed and we're like, where do we want to go? We're so, both of us work remotely. So we have that privilege to make that decision, and Wanaka has always been a place that spoke to our soul. I'd say it's a very slow pace, there's adventure sports here, but it's a very chilled energy, which is good for me because I can be I'll go sometimes. So.
You got good energy. Awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background. So you started out as a lawyer and going down that path. So what made you choose law first?
Yeah. So when I was about 16 years old, my mum actually made a decision. I'd gone to boarding school and my mum made a decision to take me out of school for about 3.5 months, and we went to a place in Cambodia, which is a community, and they have lots of HIV positive kids that they work with, and it's a really beautiful space. And we spent about 3.5 months there, and I think for me that was a massive pivotal moment in my life where I really started to like reassess what I stood for, and that experience had such a strong kinesthetic thing on my values. And so I started to develop one of my core values is contribution. And I said to the guy at the time, it's quite an influential age, I think, in the teens, like, what do you think, if I want to contribute and I want to be part of something like this? And he was like, look, honestly, given what you do and your background things, maybe like law and politics would be good. So it's funny how like one statement can take us on this path,
Yeah.
So I went through and went into law school and did a politics degree as well, international relations, and then, by default, I would say, ended up in corporate law, not humanitarian law. So, yeah, that was a big light bulb moment for me as well.
So what's corporate law like?
Well, my brother used to always text me like, is it like Suits? And I'm like, yes and no. Like,
they filmed that up here in Toronto, or they did. I don't know if they're still filming it, but it's in the Toronto area. But yeah, I think we have this glamorized like idea of what law is like Suits.
Yeah.
And is it
like there's elements, like the hours, like the get there at 7 and work till 11, like there's elements of it. I think there were, of course, with everything, there were aspects I loved. I worked in a top tier firm, so like it was really fast paced. They were highly intelligent people. We were trained to the like highest level of professionalism. That stuff was so great for just my development and the types of people I love working and being around. There are a lot of elements I didn't enjoy. I think the work-life balance is challenging, and that is true. And I guess, for me, it was the thing that never really felt aligned was that piece around my values. Like I was, to be honest, I was good at it. Like I was actually like, everyone was like, great lawyer, great attention to detail, all these things, but I never felt like deeply fulfilled in the work that I was doing. I was doing a lot of like developments and commercial stuff. And whilst maybe on an ego level, like I was successful, I never really had that feeling of like, drive and excitement and meaning and fulfillment from it. So it was a long 4 years. I'll say it was kind of like,
So how did you know? So what point did you like, I need to get out? Law is not for me. And like, you probably like, how much school and effort did you put into getting into that career? Like that's a pretty big decision, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it was 5 years at law school, and for us, we have student loans, but and I think a lot of people let that deter them. Like it was $60,000 in student loans and 5 years of training, and then your professional, like get your profs to get admitted to the bar. So a lot of work. And my stepmom's a lawyer and my dad's a lawyer, and there's a lot of external expectations as well around, or not expectations. I think I put them on myself, but there was a lot of people I felt like if I left, I would disappoint. I honestly think probably like the first year I was just like in it, just really wanting to prove myself, be successful and all these things. But after like repeated like taxis home and nights walking home on my own at like 11 o'clock, I think I just got to this place of like really questioning like, what is this all really about? Like who am I really doing this for? And my first, where it all kind of started to unfold, must have been about 2 years into law. And my mum rang me one night and she was like, so I really want you to go to this seminar. And I was like, I don't want to go to a seminar. I'm fine, And I think it's funny now because I see like a red flag when people say like, I'm fine. And I was so that person. It was like, don't come near me. I'm fine. Like everything's good. We're good. Like I got the apartment, I got the partner, I got the job.
Picking up all the boxes.
I don't know that I really wanted to look, all she said was, do you love me? Yes. Do you trust me? Yes. Will you just go to the seminar and just see what opens up? Mm-hmm. And so I went to this 3-day seminar, and that was all through the Landmark Education, which was my initial personal development journey. And like, I remember going up and talking about my career, and they were like, just sit down and we'll talk to you soon. And that was just like my whole world just expanded of like how I'd created who I was, my belief systems, like these things that I think I felt, but I didn't consciously know, like how I designed my life to look successful, but did I, my values, all these bigger things started to like unfold at that at that workshop. And yeah.
And then that put you on the path to explore coaching.
Yeah. So, well, it was a bit of a journey. So for me, I think, and I think a lot of people feel this with their career, like I was still super tunneled. Like I was basically like law or maybe a consultant. Like I was very in that world. I didn't relate to myself as an entrepreneur. I never thought I was going to have something on my own. That wasn't a big driver for me, to be honest. Like I know a lot of people design it for freedom, but it really wasn't that for me. I never thought that was going to be my journey. So I went through about 2.5 years of personal development, just like seminar after seminar. And I think if you're into personal development, you know that vibe. You just like spending all your savings. You know, I'd go to law in the day, and then I was like this warrior seminar attendee by night. And I think my supervising partner, when I left my law firm, was like, you always had those headphones in. I was wondering what you were listening to. Like, I just went so deep on my personal development, and I hadn't clicked at that point that this was going to be the thing. You know, I was definitely looking for like, what's my jam, but I definitely didn't think it was coaching yet at that stage. And I think that's so important when I'm talking to people, especially people who maybe want to get into these industries. I'm like, be a student first, you know, like follow all those nudges. And when I was doing all these seminars, I didn't know. I was literally just trusting, like, it feels amazing. I feel so authentic when I'm there. You know, I love how I'm developing myself, and I just kept following that path. And actually it wasn't until I did like a reflection worksheet that was like, when do you feel most alive? Who do you follow and look up to? Like all these questions, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the theme was just literally like personal development. I was like, okay. And then I remember talking to friends being like, so do you guys like personal development though? And they're like, not like you do.
I know, it's the same. Like you just get so wrapped up in it, and it's like, you are the student. I love that. Like, be the student first, right? A lot of us are just, we go right to, well, how do I make that a career? Or how do I get into it? It's like, why don't you just try and be the student first? And I think we're always a student. Like, I'm still a student learning, like the stuff, you know, you and I, we've met because we're in a coaching container together, and we're currently like reading this book, The Shame That Binds You. And like, I love learning about shame and all of that, and where it comes from and how we process it. And there's still so much to learn, right? Yeah. So always being the student. So I love that saying. And so that's where you start. That's a really good one. So how did you get into NLP then?
So then, and then I actually worked with a really amazing career coach who uses a lot of ideation stuff around career design. And we had this point where she was like, cool, so there's about 6 kind of options that feel aligned with all the feedback we did, who you are, your strengths. And one of them was coaching. So there was like organizational development, like some other options. And she said, money time's not an issue, which I think is a really great question, because so much of our ego is driving from that place. And when she asked that question, I got to put aside who I thought I was, who other people thought I was, and just truly answer from that like deeper place of like what felt really exciting and aligned for me. And she's like, what one would you do? And I was like, coaching. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. She was like, you can totally do that. And that was like a permission, right? And I think that's what I love about coaching. It's we don't give people answers. They have their own answers and truth. It just activates and for me, I've had so many of these people, but it was just that permission slip. Like, you're worthy of that. You can do that. Like, yeah, you might need to do some retraining, right? And that was a little bit of the gap, but you can absolutely do that. Right. And that gave me that first permission. And then I kind of lent into this identity shift of being a coach. And that's where I looked for the next trainings of like, cool, I've been a student, I've had lots of my own transformation. And then what gap do I still need to close in that sense? And I think that's such a personal decision. A lot of people ask what certifications and things. Mm-hmm. Coaching industry is still very different from the legal industry. You know, in law, you have one thing, and that's what gives you the piece of paper. Coaching wasn't like that. I was like, oh gosh. So really just looked at what were my gaps, you know?
Yeah.
Where were the places, not like I'm not good enough. Like I was aware of all those stories, but it was like, well, of course there's going to be a gap. You know, if you go into anything new, there's a mindset gap and there's a knowledge gap. And so for me, that was NLP, to like deeply understand how humans process information, emotions, like how you work with that part of the mind. I've always been I love mindset. And I think recently years I've like started playing the body somatic space, but like, yeah, my first work was all with the mindset base. And NLP was that closing that knowledge gap.
So for anyone that's curious, what is NLP?
Yeah, nice. It's the unconscious how do you reprogram the unconscious mind? So something to think about is you may have like a conscious dream or vision, right? So you want to start this business, or you want to have this amazing relationship or body or whatever it is you're playing for. But then for some reason, you continue to never get to it. It's kind of like, it feels like this. You're like, I can see the thing, but I can't seem to like get to it. And what we play with in NLP is the unconscious mind is often the reason that that's not occurring, is because your blueprint of who you think you are, what success is, maybe stuff from your childhood, is all blocking you from creating that vision. And so NLP goes in, works with your unconscious using language and guided processes and stuff to reprogram that part. So suddenly the conscious and unconscious mind align, and it's like, oh, now we're really going, So that's that's a little brief thing about how NLP.
For a lot of the clients that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
In a short amount of time too, right? To kind of get right in there and what needs to be shifted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you can consciously talk about things, but if you've got this background belief or fear or whatever, then you only go so far. And often people self-sabotage because it's like, oh no, I've gone this far, but that doesn't match who I think I am or the internal game. So that's what I'd say creates quantum shifts in people, like 3-4 weeks. It's like completely different human, relating to themselves differently, like, asking for what they want, like just a very different energy. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I probably need to go and get some of that coaching done for like why I like Doritos so much and how do I stop eating Doritos so much.
Yeah,
if you can with that or any of that.
Actually, there's what's it called? We do this like mapping across thing where you take something you don't like, you wish you didn't like, and you like map across, because how you store things like internally, and it actually works. I once did it with potato chips, and I honestly, I eat corn chips. I love corn chips, but I literally probably ate potato chips once after that. Like it's powerful.
Okay, we're gonna talk later, because if you could do that with me, that'd be great. Okay, so how did you know that you want to go out on your own? So what were you like? Because you were saying before, like you didn't think entrepreneurship was your thing, and then all of a sudden here you are, an entrepreneur, and you're killing it. Like you're doing amazingly well. So how did you know? Where was that for you?
So I did look out to the market, and I think that's really important. Like no matter what you do, in New Zealand we have a big charitable sector, and like a lot of people like have this idea and think, oh, I need to start my own thing. But I think it's really important to see what else is happening in the space. And so I did go out and I did have a look at some other companies and organizations and think about joining them as a coach in their mission. Did I look forever? No, because I don't think you need to. And I just was like, cool. I didn't see anything at that point, and perhaps my brain wasn't fully expanded to look for it, but I didn't see anything that I was like, I would fully work under them. And I think what my gap was like, it was probably the millennial spin on coaching, and coaching in New Zealand is still quite a relatively new industry. And like when I went into market research, there were a lot of people who were like, oh no, I don't have any problems. Like, why would I need a coach and all this stuff? And I was like, okay, we've got a gap here, because there's a misconception around what coaching is and who it's for. And I kind of set out on this mission of like, how could I make it cool? How could I make it, young and fun and mainstream was what came through. And so that for me started to, answer my question of like, perhaps this was something I did need to create on my own in some sense. And it didn't start as a big business vision. And I think that's super important. Anyone who's got ideas, it started as free workshops in downtown Auckland with my friends. I was like, okay, who's coming to my workshop?
They were free, and because you were passionate about it and you wanted to do it.
Yeah. And I just wanted to hear that. And I remember literally the first time someone came who wasn't my friend, and I'm like, how did you hear about this? I was like, I was just like perplexed. How did this get beyond my circle? That was called Why Wednesday. So that was the process of, your purpose, your values, those questions I had gone deeper on of like, who am I really? What do I stand for? And not the superficial of like integrity and honesty, like, no, at your core, what inherently makes you like fired up and excited. And so it was the most simplest reflection worksheet. And the power was in the connection. It was in that we were talking about these things as young professionals and stuff, and we were openly, because I think everyone pretends like they've figured it all out, got it all together. Yeah, and we could actually just talk about, I don't really like my job. I feel lost. I was successful to this point, and we could have these really open conversations, and that's where it all started. Like just these, and about 400 people went through those workshops. I used to run them like every second Wednesday. Yeah, and that's where it started, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah, like it's just starting, just getting out there and just trying something, see what works, see what sticks. If it doesn't, try something again. I love that you just went out there and did a free workshop, because I think a lot of people they don't even know where to start. So what do you think's been the hardest part of growing a company for yourself?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. I loved coaching. I never read a business book in my life. That was never an area I identified with. Like I said, didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur. Had friends in the startup space. I'm like, you do you. I'm a corporate kid. Like, so my first day of self-employment, I sat at my laptop and I just had this. I was like, I have no idea how to build a business. Like, no, I know how to coach, right? And again, I think this is another thing a lot of people do is like sometimes we love things, you know, maybe you love yoga or maybe you love coaching or whatever. And then you think, oh, I should start a business. But what we forget is like business and the thing you're delivering are two really different things. Right. And that was huge for me. And so I guess just another gap, which we've always got a gap from where we want to be. I really got that I didn't know business. I didn't know marketing. I had no sales training. And that was a big gap. And I think what saved me in a sense is, or supported me, was my professional network. Like I had people around me I had contributed to just from love for years, and they suddenly rallied up around me. And it still makes me emotional thinking of it, but you know, they were like, I didn't have much income when I decided to leap, and they were like supporting me. Like they were getting me workshops at their corporate jobs. Like my first year I got this incredible like contract with a corporate law firm, and they flew me all around New Zealand running these workshops, and that was through a connection from uni, you know. So suddenly these people just like rallied around me, and I really believe they were the ones that got me through that first. I got no idea what I'm doing. So it was pretty cool.
It's hard, it's exciting, and I think when you're passionate about the coaching or the yoga or whatever it is, it gets you to push through some of those business awkward moments or uncomfortable moments where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So what do you think's been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned so far about growing? So
the entire shift from doing it on your own, like for me, particularly, and probably because it's really present right now, but like in the last 18 months, we've tripled in size and growth because I have a team, and I've finally relinquished control and just let people support and come in. And what it was when I was solo was hard work, lonely, and kind of wondered how that was ever going to be sustainable. And it wasn't that much fun. Like it was kind of fun, but you know, we're creative with other people. Like we're social beings meant to connect. And then the moment I actually like allowed people into support, you know, and I asked for help and I built a team, that has completely transformed my experience of myself, of my leadership, of our business, of our impact. And that's been, the biggest thing. I think I know there's some stuff in the early stage that you need to work through, right? You need to get to revenue so you can have people and all these things. But I think there is a tipping point where you realize, like, I don't need to do this on my own. You know, this can be so much bigger than me. So that's been really exciting and challenging.
Yeah. Because putting on a team and then making sure that they, you know, coach in the certain way and format that you want, that's something to get through. Like that's something I'm looking at. And it's like, how do you know to make that shift, and how do you let go of the control is exactly where I'm at.
It's, I didn't, and I think it's like everything in life. I didn't feel ready. Like I remember enrolling and reaching out to my first support coach, and I was like, oh, will she actually want to do it? Like all these, there was like the ego piece of like, will she actually do it like I do it? And then there was kind of like, will she actually want to be part of it? Like,
Great.
yeah.
Okay.
And it was genuine. And she literally, she messaged back and was like, oh my gosh, like I can't even believe you have thought of me. And I think the most, to some extent, they're not going to be you. And I think that's what you have to get. Like what the support coaches have brought, like in terms of to the business, to how they hold space for people, to the way they operate, is like we together have made the program something even more extraordinary,
Right.
because it's exponentialness. You're like, oh gosh, I wouldn't even thought of doing that. Like,
Yeah, they bring in a whole other perspective that you weren't even seeing. So
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brain more about that, because I feel like I'm there. It's
Yeah.
just the control. Letting go of control is really hard.
Yeah, it is. And you can still maintain your leadership, right? But it just looks like your leadership isn't to control and micromanage, it's to create people powerfully. Like, it's like I relate to them as like, they are incredible. They are, and they show up that way. And I think that was that piece around, okay, I don't have to control them, I have to create them. Like, I have to have them who they really are. And then like my team, honestly, like they blow my mind. Like they read my mind. They do things before I ask them. They continually go the extra mile, right? And that wasn't ever through control. It was through creating them as that, you are incredible. I see you. Let's create together, Yeah. And I think, and it actually frees you up to do quality control. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a different role to do that. Like you get to really like look at, okay, if they're across that, like I get to really oversee, are we truly creating the results? Where can I come in and push, move it further and stuff? And that's been,
Yeah. I think for me, the other thing that's kind of humming in the background is around, right now it feels simple. And there's something for me where it's just like, I enjoy the simplicity of me and my clients, and then that's it, and me and my creation, and that's it. Like, and it's like, if I add more people to a team, if I grow, if I expand, I don't know what that looks like. Is it still simple, or does it get harder? And I guess what's, corporate days, the more people you add to a team and you scale, it gets more complex. Right. So that's, I think, something that I'm working through on a belief that I'm currently holding about expanding.
Yeah. And I definitely went through that. It was like, it's like, there's this little voice like, this is nice. Like, this is good. We could just stay right. And it's salary and it's quite freeing. And because when you bring in a team, you do have accountability to others, right? There's suddenly, you're responsible. Like there is nowhere to hide in your business, and wherever you've been hiding, you get called forward because they're like, hello. So yeah, but I think it's that classic, like more responsibility also creates more power. Like you're like, amazing, I'm really showing up for this. And it is a personal decision, because I think there's a lot of narratives around scale, grow. And I went through this like philosophical thing for myself. Like, do I want that? Or am I actually totally okay at this level and this income, and we can just play here? Like that, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we are so strongly advocated to like scale, grow. And you just get to sit in, does that feel good for me? And for me, it's like an itch, but it also, when I really sat with it, I was like, I don't actually think there's an alternative for me. I don't really feel inspired by the stay here. It feels easy, but I don't see the growth there for me. And growth's one of my highest values. So it came from a place of like, wow, I wonder what I could discover. And I also think it's kind of cool to think about, like, in your journey of your business, is like, you might go through a phase of like growing to a massive company and then go lean again and then go back to a solo consultant. Like, I think it's okay to think about it, our organizations as just like this forever evolving thing. So for me, I'm going to play in the team space, and I'm going to develop myself to be a person I can hold that capacity and energy and team. And then when I'm 40, 35, I don't know, I might scale back. Like, and I think that's okay as well.
It feels right. And like right now, or the past 18 months, it has felt really nice to just be in this like little bubble of myself and my clients, right? But I can feel that there's another itch happening. I can feel like what is next, what is growth. So yeah, it's great to pick your brain on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you work with young professionals. That's your market.
Yeah, so that's typically most of my clients would be most of my clients would be anywhere from early 20s. It's actually been interesting the last couple of years. I've seen a lot more like university students coming through our space, which is amazing because like, oh my gosh, not doing that at university. And so that's been really cool to see actually, is like the student space realizing like, oh, I need to figure out who I am and what I want with my life before I even got into those careers. And then we have, your early mid 20s and then 30, like early 30s as well, because I think that kind of bigger question, like, and what do I really want to do? Am I on that right path? Do I need to just take a wee reset and really get connected to what I want with my life vision? And the other transition that's been coming through is, early mum, like they've just had their first, and because I think that's a huge shift of like, oh, wait a minute, do I still want that? Or am I ready to recreate and redesign? So yeah.
So with young professionals, what do you see as their biggest challenge right now? Like, is there a theme that you're noticing?
Yeah, it definitely sits around career, but I think what was interesting for me is like, if I had done career coaching stuff without any deeper personal development, I know exactly where I would have gone, right? So I would have literally become a consultant at one of the big four accounting consulting firms. And that was very predictable. And so what I love working with people is like, it will probably show up as your career, not feeling aligned or this kind of itch to do something more. But how I like working with people is that like deeper kind of like, who are we? What's our vision? What do we want to create? Like that, those bigger questions. Because for me, that's where coaching became possible. But that wasn't until I really questioned, like, could I do that? And like move through all of that. So, yes, I think the biggest challenge would be being in work and the system as such, and like knowing you're not necessarily using your gifts if you even know what they are yet.
Yeah. So it's for them, I think you're saying the biggest challenge is doing some of the inner work first before they jump to their vision, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because and a lot of what I've seen is like a lot of people like I have a lot of Kiwis, like New Zealanders going to London's a big thing here, and I have like so many clients from London. They're like, oh, okay, got to London, did the OE thing, no different, because it's deeper than that. It's not a city. It's even necessarily a job. It's a lot deeper than that. Yeah.
It is. It is. We have Lynn hanging out with us today. So she just wanted to add this comment about scaling back. It is liberating and it's a careful balance, right? So hi, Lynn. Love that you're tuning in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2020, when you look at scaling back, a lot of us were forced to scale back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us had to take a look at what is the balance of that? What is good? Was the scale back, the simplification, this not hustle to go to work, drive, do all these things, get to the office meetings. And is that a good thing? I think people are real evaluating what their life is going to look back, how they had to scale back in 2020.
Yeah. And I think it was such a good reminder. And I love running lean, like really thinking about in every area of life. That's not even just business, right? Because I think we do naturally accumulate stuff in our life. Like we spend our whole life collecting it and then trying to get rid of it. Like it's like in every area we get to keep looking, have I just accumulate, where does that come from, right? Is that truly what I want? And how can I create space again? And I love practicing this through, your wardrobe, your finances, like all these areas you get to clean and create space again for something new to come through. So I think bang on, like the scaling back in business, it was a forced thing. And I think for some people, they'll realize like, wow, this is simpler. There's
there was
to it. It's beautiful.
2020 kind of injected into all of us. It's been a crazy year. And lots going on. But New Zealand's been kind of on the world stage with how amazing they have done through all of this. Like, what's your take on how New Zealand's been doing?
Yeah, I think we moved quickly. We have really strong prime minister. Like her leadership is phenomenal, and most of the world lot of the world know Jacinda, and she's just been re-elected. So she she was just incredible the way she led, and kind of she created. We're quite a small country, New Zealand. We're 4.5 million maybe now, and across our whole country.
Wow.
So she created a movement, is what I'd say. It was kind of this groundswell, right? Everyone was like posting and sharing on social media to be part of this and like tackle this together. So it was a very powerful thing to witness and to actually experience, as like everyone supporting everyone, wanting the best for everyone. There was heaps of cool initiatives that came through, lots of like support. For me personally, my partner and I focused on people who had, because I used to have a lot of in-person workshops and speaking stuff, and so I knew the transition to go fully digital, and we spent a lot of our energy and tension in that time helping coaches get online and go fully digital, because people lost their incomes overnight. There was this really cool, the humanity just like permeated everything. Everyone was on Zooms everywhere. Like it was quite a powerful energy that happened, and to be part of. And yeah, that's cool. Always proud of our little nation.
Yeah, no, like New Zealand, you guys are doing amazing, and a lot of credit goes to her and her leadership style. And I think people are starting to look at her type of leadership style, or that she is a woman in power, and she is doing a phenomenal job. Like, what do you think when it comes to women and leadership and what's happening right now? Do you see a shift?
Yeah.
Do you see a transition? Yeah,
Definitely. Like I think, and having come from corporate law, like most of our leadership models were, like highly masculine, and even a lot of the females in those leadership roles had kind of modeled that.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that in the tech space. So that's been where the world I left before, and tech is very masculine as well. And I was before that, I was in the finance, venture capital space, and then I was in the manufacturing space, all very masculine dominated industries. And you're right, for women, in order to, I don't want to say survive or thrive in those environments, they take on a lot of the masculine traits, and we're losing some of the feminine traits. But your prime minister has brought those in very powerfully, that the world took notice big time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, there's so much room for it. Like I think it's about staying true to that, like, heart-centered, love-centered energy, which can be challenging when the whole world's kind of focusing on the more masculine things, and we praise and we celebrate those things, that you get recognition for those more tangible, masculine, kind of logical, goal-orientated things versus softer space. But I think over the long term, there's a lot of things that the feminine energy can do, the more feminine leadership from that place that perhaps we've struggled with. And I think that's like higher retention in teams and things like that, because stronger at creating people, stronger at generosity and leading with love and vulnerability and all these, I know this is your jam as well. It's like that. And so the places we've had such big gaps in those, in law, accounting, all these industries, retention has been so challenging. Like they've spent millions on these strategies around retention. And I honestly think like that feminine leadership is what creates that like community. We're in this together, and there's just like companies, organizations, and missions will just thrive through that. And in terms of like where I'm so excited is a lot of like social enterprises. So like that model of, I don't know if you guys use that language over in America, but it's like, so there's the charitable sector, and then there's like charitable meets it's actually profitable as well. So it's a business model of a company has impact and for good, but still creates profit. And we're like just seeing so many incredible women leading those companies, because it's got the company itself has that like, it's there for mission and impact. And then there's obviously that classic more masculine, like needs to make money and be sustainable. So I think that's really exciting to see that rise in those industries as well. And they're highly competitive companies. Like they are, they're our future, those types of companies, I think.
Absolutely.
So it's cool.
Yeah, Liz had another comment here just about amazing to hear the prime minister and she and together, because we're looking for women in leadership like her, more now than ever. So, but I just think there is this gap. And one of the reasons I started the Worthy Project was to help get women's confidence up, their courage up in their 20s, in their early 30s, so that they can get into the game and they don't question their ability or how capable they are. They just know it. And then they can put their hand up, and they love their skill set. They love that they're more empathetic. They love that they build community. They love that they're creative. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to be this aggressive thing, always about the bottom line that we're so used to seeing in corporate environments. So that's one of the hopes for the Worthy Project too, is to build that confidence into the women.
Amazing. I love that.
So speaking of confidence, what's been your thing around confidence? Like, have you always had confidence most of your life?
So no, to answer that, I had 9 years with severe eating disorder and anorexia and bulimia, and that was like a continual insecurity and self-judgment and control and like all these things, trying to make sure I looked and fitted in as a certain way. So I only felt confident if I matched what society told me initially, and that was a very long journey for me around. But I think some things that I truly believe in terms of like how we build the confidence is back to that authenticity, right? It's like the reason I think we feel so out of whack and uncomfortable in ourselves is because perhaps we don't really know ourselves. And people always talk about I want to back myself, and to back yourself, you have to know yourself. You have to know what you bring, right? And it's a good feeling to know that. You don't need to be I am everything but it's to truly be able to be I am unique and I do have gifts. And I think we have to get connected to that first. And I know for myself, my eating disorder developed because I was not connected to that. I couldn't truly stand in, these are my values, these are my strengths, these are my gifts, and I matter, and I'm here to, take up space. And that part was huge, right? And I have worked with people in other ways, supporting them with, it's kind of an alternative way to deal with that issue, but it's kind of getting to that root cause. And I think the more we're connected to that, you develop an authentic confidence, which isn't the fake it till you make it. It's it's I authentically know who I am.
Right. Yeah. And I like who I am, right?
Yes.
I like it, right? And then when you know your core values, you know what you stand in, you know your boundaries, and you like those, it's hard for someone to come and knock you off that grounding.
Yeah.
Right.
Also accept who you're not. I think there was a big part of my journey that kind of shadow self and self-acceptance was I always tried to be everything. It's and I'm not doing all the limiting beliefs on myself, but there's just some stuff I'm just not that. And
I'm just not.
That set me free. Not trying to be a chameleon and try and fit into everything. It's oh no, that's just really not me, and that gave me a lot of freedom as well in terms of being confident in who I am and who I'm not. It's
yeah. I totally resonate with that. It was interesting. So last night we were on a coaching call, and I got feedback live from the head coach, Preston. And one of his feedback for me was he wants more flavor, more something from me, right? I'm too perfect or that thing, right? So it was interesting to kind of sit with that last night and go, well, I know who I am, and I know the things about myself that I do like. So how do I take this feedback? So Natalie 5 years ago, that would have knocked her off her kilter. Nice. Natalie today, I'm okay. Right? Yeah. I like who I am, right? And I'm okay with not being the right flavor for everybody because I'm the flavor for somebody, right? So it's it was interesting to kind of just see that growth, but it's getting grounded in who you are, and that's where the confidence comes from.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you got flavor, it's just looks different. It's just
I have less than flavor or what it is, but I'm gonna grill him a little bit more and be tell me the flavor that you want to see more of, and I'll see if I want to do that or not. But it was great
feedback. On feedback there, right? Everyone's going to give their feedbacks. Feedback's so subjective in a sense because it's coming from someone's worldview and perspective and their own stuff. So you get to sit with feedback and be I'll take a little bit of that, or like, maybe if it stings, you're like, oh, that's somewhere to go, versus like, okay, I'll just in that, and yeah, it's so different.
Yeah, that's a really good, I like that. So if the feedback stings, it's probably something that you haven't healed and you need to look at. If it's kind of like, whatever, right? Like there's something there that he's saying, but it didn't get me like the way it would have like years ago, when I would have been like just stewing about it and like, oh my God, and looking, how to change my Instagram feed. I wouldn't do anything like that.
How to change your flavor. So,
I need more flavor. I'm not flavorful. Doing all of that. So how do you deal with judgment? So now that, you're out there, you're an entrepreneur, you're social media, you're out there, giving workshops and all that. How do you deal with any judgment that comes your way?
I think to get okay, I went through this a lot with a coach. Like it was like, there will just be people that won't like you. And I think when I first heard those words, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, I think most people will, and she was like, no, really, like there will just be people that don't like you. And that was quite hard to sit with, had a lot of charge, even that with the people pleaser background. I was like, oof, like, but when I just really continue to allow myself to sit in that possibility that there will be some people, that thing lost its charge. And I eventually got to a point where it was like, oh yeah, I can actually genuinely get that. There will be people that don't like me or, resonate with me. And I think in terms of like the real like judgment piece of people like actively not liking you or like telling others or whatever it is, it brings up high school trauma, like they're all talking about you. But it's like I think what's huge with that is to really understand that you're just a mirror for people as well. Yeah. Like I have a really strong tendency towards action, right? I just do. I truly believe confidence comes through taking action. I don't think we ever feel free. I talk about action a lot. And, and I know that will trigger some people that have a more message of rest and chill, which is, I'm all for that as well. And I think that's what's quite interesting, but I'm totally okay that maybe sometimes my stories or my content might trigger them. And actually I'm grateful, because I think we've gotten to such a culture on social media, like just unfollow people and make this little bubble that you agree with. But to some extent, like we need to be challenged. Like we need to get those alternative perspectives. So I have just like made the decision myself. I love if I get to really test people's limits. Like I'm amazing, right? That's what we're all actually here for. And the rest and chill ones test mine, and it's great. It's like we're all, and so I think with the judgment and the haters, like it says more about them than it really says about you. You're just a mirror of whatever, so if you're triggering someone, it's kind of about you, but it's kind of not. Like, let's be honest. Like,
take a look and be like, are you in the wrong? Is there something that maybe needs to be corrected or you want to improve upon? If not, then drop it. So many of us take feedback, pull it in, put it on our heart, mull it over, like we don't need to do any of that. We just need to just look at it, see if it serves us to grow from it. If not, we drop it and we move. But,
and, talks about it as well. So it's like, from who, right? Because from my clients who have been in my program, wow, like I am all there. I am all ears. Let's jam, let's talk. Like, because you're, but from someone who's never done any of our things and doesn't like your social media, that's a very different energy. And so I think it's, again, what Brene talks about is like, who's that coming from? And really weighing up that feedback you're getting. So if it's coming from team or clients, or like, that's completely different conversation to just someone who doesn't like you because when they saw you, it's like, okay, we haven't fully connected or done any work with us. That's
totally. So what's something today that you continue to work on for yourself?
Oh, rest. Yeah, like my deepest work. So I grew up in a family of incredibly powerful women who never stopped. And my nana to this day still knits. She's just about 90 and she doesn't stop knitting. And she turns to me every time I see her, I can't sit doing nothing. Like, so it's so deep in our generational, like women of do, get stuff done, feel uncomfortable when they're stopping. Like my mum's like that, like all of them. And I've definitely inherited that. And I'm that's my work. Like, I'm like, cool, I've got that pattern. It's what's made me effective in some senses, but also not necessarily productive, right? So for me, my deepest work on is to learn to switch off and to truly rest. And people talk about being active relaxers and all these things. Yes, and my brain is always ticking about other people's lives and dreams and business and my team, and so that's been as a continual work for me. And I'd actually say the more called in, so in terms of like clients, like I said, we tripled in size this year, and team, the more I've had to do the rest and the stop. And that's been so interesting, right? You think like, oh, I'm growing and I'm expanding and I'm going to have to do more. In fact, my work started to look very different. There was less doing for me, and there was this whole other like being and strategy and like expanding my energy and filling my cup. And that like was like an unexpected challenge, because I thought there was going to be more to do and it didn't.
I love that. Okay, yeah, I need to talk to you more. I do, about all that. So if somebody wanted to kind of go out there and get more into their purpose, and they're feeling maybe unsure, maybe scared, lost, they don't know what to do, what would be the advice that you would give them?
You don't have to figure it out on your own. Like, there are so many people who can support you, like mentors and coaches who you have your own answers. That's what I would remind you of. There's going to be no freaking guru, and no thing is going to fall into your lap suddenly. Like, it's a process and a journey, and it's almost like giving yourself the gift of like, oh, I get to go on this. How lucky am I that I get to like really rediscover who I am?
I get it. Yeah.
Very different.
I love
don't, like, just get this, do it in a community, have fun with it. I know it doesn't feel like that when you're in that space. I remember super vividly, but I think what set me free was like, oh, just put my hand up. I'm gonna get some help with this. This is the whole life thing, Yeah.
Right, because that's where the confidence comes from, was action, is by trying. Like, a lot of confidence comes from our competence, and you can't gain confidence if you're not willing to try something. Like, you can't, so you got to just put your hand up, you got to go, you got to try, right? So if you have this dream, if you think, I want to start something, try it off the side of your desk for a little bit, reach out to people on LinkedIn, and connect, right? How do they do something? Host live series where you get to talk to amazing people like you, and I just get to ask all the questions I want to answer. I love to do this thing with everyone that comes on the Worthy Project Live, which is we call it the Rapid 5 on Live. So just 5 questions real quick, and see what your answers are. So who's a role model for you that other people should check out if they aren't already?
I really love Alexi Panos, who is Preston's partner. So Preston Smiles is I love Alexi. I really resonate with her, just like, she's got a get shit done vibe, but she's got this beautiful other like emotional, connected to herself, like energy. But I've always been really inspired by her leadership of like commitment, and it really resonates for me of like, how much do we need to get out of our way to be in service of the whole? And she just always speaks into that. She always embodies that. So yeah, she's been a really powerful leader in that way.
Yeah. I'm just coming onto her work right now through Preston and through Casey. Also was a big fan in our container, who we had on a couple weeks ago. So she's someone to look out for, someone to check into. Great. What's something that others get wrong about you?
I think some people think and my partner shared this before, I can be super serious, because like I love like service, commitment, vision, potential, like, so I can come across that way, but I'm actually quite weird, quite playful, quite like have midday dance parties all the time, like, and I think that's over to me to actually express that more, but I think a lot of people don't see that part of me.
Okay, super serious, but you're not. What's something that's giving you life right now?
Oh, good, cool. Well, just this morning, actually, I've always done guided visualizations. That's always been I've always been like, I need to have guided processes, but I recently, one of my clients actually is really strong in meditation, and she's like, it doesn't need to be that way. In fact, just sitting with yourself in stillness. And so this morning I just did 10 minutes. My perfectionist was like, it's not 20 and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, just 10, and it was just the most phenomenal reset to have no input and nothing. And it is giving me life. I felt so spacious after that. So yeah, that's something I'm playing with.
I love it. And what's something you know for sure?
Every human has everything they need to create their vision and their dream. Like, it's already all within you. It's just got to be activated.
Just got to be activated. Love that. Okay. And last question, fill in the blank. To be worthy means?
To be loved. To be loved. Yeah.
Love it. It's so pretty. Okay. So I have loved talking with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. So great. I'm like losing my light. I'm like, oh my God, the time over here. I'm just like, but how do people find you? Like, what's the best way to connect to you? How can they learn more about your Untapped program, and how do they just learn more about you?
Yeah, cool. So in terms of our story, my story, my journey, and our programs and stuff, the website is good. So www.untapped.nz. And then to come jam, get some content. I'm always on there daily. Instagram is the best place for that. And so that's Untapped with Bryony. And yeah, that's the best place to just get connected and get to know each other. There's some value.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are so insightful and inspirational. I really appreciate you and your time and all that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, and yeah, love your work in the Worthy Project. And yeah, thank you for all that you are doing as well. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you everyone that tuned in. You're all amazing, and all your energy that everyone brought today. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll see you again next week, and we're going to be hosting Carlin Purcell. Don't want to miss it. All right, talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.